Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. It's good to be with you today. Here we are, continuing in the second week on the topic of things that God has told us to do. Now, as I've mentioned previously several times, many folks think about God telling them to do things, and it's more of what you shouldn't do than what you should do. And I know a lot of people, maybe even some of you who are listening to me, think that God is a God of rules to control us. Well, I grant you, we need controlling. We are a crazy bunch called human beings. We do crazy stuff and dumb stuff, and we just don't seem ever to get our act together. If you look at history, it's just one misstep after another, and you'd think over years we'd learn something, but I'm not sure we really do. And part of that's because we live in a sinful world. So God has some words for us as to what he wants us to do. And today I want to talk about the 14th chapter of John. Now, I'm not going to read but two verses. Maybe sometime I'll do a whole week on just John 14. It's one of my favorite chapters. But I want to start out with verses 1 and 2 of John 14. And here's what it says. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and also trust in me. There's more than enough room in my Father's home. If this were not so, would I have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you? Now, when we think about the idea of what does God want us to do, probably, maybe I'm wrong, but probably most people, including you, think that it means something we're actively to do, like eat right or live right or take this or don't take that or something to that effect. But this is really different, but incredibly profound. Jesus starts out and says, "Don't let your heart be troubled." Well, I don't know about you, but I've had many opportunities in my life to have a troubled heart. As a pastor, I'm not responsible for all the people in my church, but I feel responsible for them. When they hurt, I hurt. When they struggle, I struggle. When they rejoice, I rejoice. And I kind of think that's what I'm supposed to do. I mean, isn't that the example of Jesus? And it probably is true for everyone who's a Christian. But there's a way out of the constant troubles. Not, don't misunderstand me. Excuse me. It's not that you'll never have any troubles. I know some preachers who preach that. I don't know how they explain some things. I guess they've always got a explanation waiting somewhere. But I can't be honest and tell you, you won't have any troubles. In fact, I'll be honest and tell you that if you choose to walk with God, you will have troubles. Because the act of walking with God is contrary to the act of walking in this world. Now, that's another whole topic, and maybe I'll take some time on that one day too. But let's get back here. Don't let your heart be troubled. Jesus is saying this is something you and I have control over. Now, I know we don't have control over the circumstances. And I know that often the circumstances want to control our feelings. But we, you and me, alone, have the ability to decide how we're going to respond to those circumstances. I don't care where you are in life. I don't care what whether life is great or whether it's horrible. You have the ability, and only you, nobody else does. Nobody can do it for you. You have the ability to control how you respond. So, first part here says, don't let your heart be troubled. Well, that's a nice thing to say if there weren't some way to make that happen. And so Jesus gives us the answer to how do we not let our hearts be troubled. It's the next part of the verse. Trust in God, trust also in me. What does that word trust mean? Now, I wasn't in the military. I haven't been in the police. I haven't been in situations where someone wanted to kill me necessarily. I haven't been in war. But I hear people who have been in those situations use the phrase, someone has my back. Now, what does that mean? It means that someone other than that person is watching over them. Now, I know if you watch the TV, as my wife kids me about it, if you watch that in the movies, it's not a real world. Things don't happen like they do there. Life is much, much more complicated and unpredictable. But this is saying you don't have to be troubled because there's someone who's got your back, someone who's covering you. And that person is God. We trust in him. Just like someone in battle trusts the person next to him or trusts their training. I know I have several family members who were Marines, and they talk about how you're told to trust the training. So when you get in that situation, you don't have to think about it. You just follow the training. Well, if we could, in the same fashion as followers of God, put ourselves in the trust of his hands, then we don't have to be troubled. Whatever situation happens, he's there. He's got it. Maybe he doesn't let it work out the way I want it to let it work out, but it still works out, and he's still in charge. So for today, what does God tell us to do? Don't be troubled. Trust in him. You can do that. I know you can. Well, if you have a need or a concern, let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. I thank you so much for listening. I hope you'll be here the rest of this week, and I'll share some more. God bless you. Have a great day.